Good day, this is Edmond M Richard. Today I'll be discussing web browser forensics using my favorite browser Firefox and my forensic tool Autopsy as my tool of choice. And we're going to figure out what stories we can learn. As I stated, my browser will be Firefox. The tool I'll be using is Autopsy. It is version 4.17 and is on my Windows workstation. So this is a standard startup screen for Autopsy. So you notice I did create a directory in a different SSD here called the web browser demo, and I gave it a name of Firefox versus IE data collection. Yes, I am quite aware that IE is no longer the default browser, but I forgot to put an edge. Human mistake. This, of course, is a case note screen where, of course, I put in the data collection, my bogus phone number, my bogus company, and then the information. This right here sort of being the potatoes. As you can see, my data source is a virtual machine, which is from Microsoft, which is Windows 10 with Edge installed. This is their base image. Of course, you can tell it does detect my time zone. It's in Phoenix. I did not include any hash values. Now begins the fun of Autopsy. So you can see I did configure Autopsy down here to use 4 threads. So most of the time it uses 2 to 3, but here you can see the start of the process. Now here at the very end, this is when it ended, and it took roughly 2 hours and 45 minutes to run. The storage collection and read errors are from the image. I have no idea why they're there. The image works fine. But as you can see over here, maybe a little difficult to see, but it did pick up 22 traces in the web history and 785 web cookies. How interesting. Now, when we go to the web history, here's a neat little fact. You can tell that I ran and installed this image today, and these are some of the sites I visited using Firefox. You notice it does show like AOL, Yahoo, MSN, and whatnot, but similar sites were shown or visited, and you notice that there is no title or refer URL. How interesting. It seems to be a little glitch in Autopsy. Now the bane of my existence, of course, is cookies. So you can see the 789 of them here. You notice here's one from Twitter, even though I never did visit it. Double click as an advertiser. Media 6 Degrees is another one. Here's another one, Microsoft, of course, itself. There's our search engine Bing. So as you can see, all the cookies are visible within Autopsy. One of the things by default there is a keyword search. And I find it quite interesting in this that you notice that it pulled up Facebook. At no point did I ever visit Facebook. So why this is here? Well, obviously it is because it's an advertising function. Because if you do look at this, you should see the word audience network. So once again, this is a little web bug, invisible web cookie, which is on whatever page I visited, which is tracking for linkage to Facebook to the advertising services. So yes, Autopsy does pick up even those. Now, of course, since this is a virtual machine image from Microsoft, it's rather odd when I ran the timeline function within Autopsy to show events happening as far back as it looks like 2001, because this is Windows 10. Of course, you know, it's 2004. We get some documents. Then we get 2010, which makes more sense. But still, it is a little bit interesting, the time that this image is showing, what Autopsy is pulling up from it. Please notice this thing says Nikon. This is actually a picture pulled from a page which was visited. And yes, Autopsy found it, and it did tell you where it came from. Of course, this is not directly related to Firefox, but one of the things that I did find interesting is that you notice this is Microsoft Edge, and being that was the default browser installed, you can go through and it will pull through the cache for Microsoft Edge. Of graphics, and this of course is an advertisement probably for some sort of vacation getaway, but you can see that there's a ton of these, and if you look through them, a lot of these are actually from apps. I mean, here we have Bing Weather, and of course the wonderful named, looks like system keys here. Once again, Autopsy does pull other information out and is great for digging up where someone has went. Now, of course, this is one of the little oddities I noticed. This is a Windows 10 image from Microsoft. Yet when you go to the autopsy metadata results, apparently a Kevin L. Brown had Office installed. And if you look down here, it apparently happened in sometime in 2004. Now, being as this is a Microsoft Edge Windows 10 image, I don't know why Office would show up, but indeed, Office is not installed. Also, who's Kevin L. Brown? Guess it may remain a mystery, like Jimmy Hoffa. Of course, right here, one of the other advantages of Autopsy, you can go to the installed programs. As you notice, I did highlight all the Microsoft programs, and lo indeed, there is no Microsoft Office. So, why the traces are shown there? Obviously, Microsoft is simply upgrading images as times go about and is leaving traces. Of course, you can also see right here that the version of Firefox installed was, of course, the 64-bit version 8.203. So it's also interesting. You can see when it was installed and whatnot, because you can see the date and time right here. Now, one of the glories of Autopsy, unlike many tools, is that once this analysis is run, and of course I closed this, and just before creating this presentation, I actually went back and created a report. I did create this humorous little title here, but as you can see, this once again is going through the metadata here, because you can tell from right up here, and you can see metadata pulled, once again, Mr. Brown from 2004 using Office. Of course, the very interesting thing is Xenos Chocolatey, which is a Linux-like package installer, is on this machine, or was on this machine, but notice there's no program name, no user ID, no modification created, but it's there. Same thing for Jeffrey Sparks. How interesting. Thank you for listening to me describe my favorite browser, Firefox, and the traces we can pull from it using Autopsy. Of course, this is a really quick and brief overview of what Autopsy does. When it comes down to, hey, we need to look for specific Java file and whatnot, those are included. I did not include them in my slide because we can go and spend hours upon hours seeing what is downloaded on a supposedly fresh and clean image. But if you have any questions, I'm always free to answer them. And thank you for your time, and keep on learning.